Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. This is my husband.
Yamacha Noah, this is my beautiful wife,
Jennifer Honor, and together we are the
Honors.
Honors. So today's topic is a highly requested one. I did put on my Instagram stories for you guys to, suggest a topic, and then a few suggestions came in, and then I did a poll to see which one you all wanted us to talk about, and this topic was it. Like it won by a landslide. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely something that we know a thing or two about. So we want to kind of shed some light on it and talk about it, because I know it's something that a lot of couples deal with. A lot of couples are navigating through that. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. So the topic at hand is essentially navigating through
boundaries in marriage.
Boundaries when it comes to relatives in a marriage. And right, and a lot of times, that
let's go
that encompasses obviously in-law, like mother-in-laws, father-in-laws, brother-in-laws, like family, family, relatives. And I think for me to start off, I'll say the first thing that needs to happen when it comes to that that topic is that you and your spouse have to be on the same page. Like you both, that's the number one step. The first thing is you both have to be on the same page that, hey, these are the boundaries we want to set in our marriage when it comes to your side of the family or my side of the family. And especially if, let's say, one side of the family proves to be more problematic than the other.
Proves to be stubborn.
Stop. Don't do that.
I got the giggles, yo.
Typically sometimes there'll be one side of the family that's like causing a lot more of the, crossing of boundaries and whatnot. Yeah. And if it's from both sides, that's also fine. But at the end of the day, you both have to first establish, hey, these are boundaries we need to put up, and we both need to be firm in that, because once you both have set that in your home, then y'all are on the same page. So if a relative is tweaking, you both can know what to do, right? Yeah. And what do you want to say to that?
I agree. What is the boundary? Like, what's the definition of a boundary?
Well,
and how would a couple realistically set a boundary? You know
So for example, it's like when it comes to certain inputs in what you and your household are doing, right? A lot of times, like, let's say my mom or your dad or your parents want to be like, oh, why are you doing that? Is that what you're doing with your kid? Like, no, don't do that. Like, that's not how you do it, right? So setting those kind of boundaries, like, okay, I get it that, we are your kids, and so you've had kids before, but there are things that we want to do differently, and that's our choice. That's our prerogative. Yeah. And so we would rather you respect it than to be like, oh, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you do it. Do it this way, you know?
And I think that's not to say that we don't take advice, right? Because you said, they obviously had us. So they've been parents before. They have advice, they have wisdom. So yes, we can take that. But I think that in the Christian household, it's like, oh, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right? And I think that there is a, once you get married, right, like a man will leave his husband. Wow, a man will leave his husband? Y'all gonna crucify me. A man will leave his parents' house and, cling to his wife, right? So I think that the Bible is saying that you're starting something new, you're starting something different, right? So yes, obey your parents when you're living under the roof, they're paying for your bills, etc., right? But now I'm starting a whole different life with my family, my immediate family, right? And so I think that you should take the wisdom, right? But from a man's perspective, you lead your house, right? So I think the question I asked, how do you do it, practically, right? I think that it will come over time and conversation. When y'all are dating, you guys will know how you want to run your household, right? But I think that as situations arise, you guys will know how to navigate certain things, right? So for example, if your mom is tweaking, right, I wouldn't expect, you wouldn't expect me to check her. That's not my place to do so, right? it would be your place to speak on our behalf. Does that make sense?
And that would already come from us having talked about it
Yeah,
prior
yeah.
to that. Like, and
Yeah.
I think that's what we meant by you both have to be on the same page. Like, hey, babe, since that's your mom, and obviously if you're the one who ends up checking her, it's gonna kind of come off in a weird way, but at the end of the day, I can check my mom better than you can, because like that's my mom.
Yeah.
Regardless of what I do, she's gonna love me, or she has to love me.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
that kind of bond is there already. And so and vice versa, if it comes from your side of the family, you're like, before I even respond, you're on it. You know what I mean?
I don't even know if it's like you can check your mom or I can check my parents better. I think it's just a wisdom issue. Like you said, I can cuss my parents out. Not saying that. I'm not saying you should, right? But I can
Just frame it differently, please. We don't want any issues.
I can cuss my parents. I can do the worst thing to my parents, right?
Okay,
Obviously.
okay, that's what you meant. Okay.
Yes.
Because I thought you meant like literally you can't, like you.
No.
Phrase it differently, because I'm like, what?
No. Did y'all think that?
That's what you said.
I'm.
Like what you meant
I can see how it can
Yeah.
like I can or I okay.
No,
Cool. I got you.
No, what you meant was like.
Okay. I got you. What I mean?
Like what you meant was like you can. Technically, you can do the worst to your
exactly.
parents than I would, because that's your parents.
Yes. I'm in a better position, like, you know, how about it is wise for me to check my parents, you know what I mean? Because I can do the worst. Now I'm overthinking. I can do the worst, but like you said, whatever it is, that's still my parents, you know what I mean? So they're going to have some kind of love for me, right?
Yeah.
But I see that not a lot of times, sometimes the in-laws don't get along. Like the in-laws and the daughter-in-laws or son-in-laws don't get along, right? So I feel like you have to use wisdom and tread very lightly. Like you can't just say anything, right? But I'm also curious to know, I'm sure there are couples out there who, let's say like your mom, right, loves me as like her son, that can say anything to her, right? So I feel like you have to kind of gauge the situation. Like what's the level of love or friendship or closeness, y'all are on, and then kind of gauge that way. But I feel like in the whole, it's probably best, like the deeper, like, you know, conversations, it's probably best for you to check your mom and then me check my family side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And like you said, you know, even if there's a good relationship between, you know, your partner and their in-laws, that's awesome. But there's still certain things that shouldn't come from your spouse. It should come from you to your parent. And
It depends though.
For example, right? So
Okay.
I think we came to a place where we decided that we needed a little bit more help from my mom, and we feel like we weren't getting as much as we needed. But then, you know, we were doing a lot more to, you know, on her side, like to help her and then help her take care of things. And so we were both on that same page. And even though my mom absolutely adores him as a son-in-law,
The best son-in-law.
he adores him as the best son-in-law. It's still not a conversation where he would be the one to have with her. Like I had to have that, because then it could.
Because it's a touchy subject.
It's one of those things where you don't want to go have that conversation. Then it's, you know, now my mom is like, oh, this guy, like, what's your problem type of thing, you know? Granted, he's not going to be rude or whatever, but it's still one of those conversations where you use wisdom, and it's like, okay, I have to be the one to break that news or have that conversation.
Yeah.
And another thing too is just putting your foot down, right? Especially when it comes to the head of the household, like the man, you have to put your foot down. Like you have to create a space in your home where relatives can know that they cannot mess with you guys. Like they cannot come in and then disrespect you guys.
Yeah.
Your husband has to be the one to lead that and put their foot down. If there has been incidences in the past where, you know, somebody needed to be checked, the head of the household had to be, you know, on it. I remember one particular instance. This was years ago. It was like our first Thanksgiving after we had gotten married, which is crazy because like we were kids, literally. We were still like we were like boy and girl. We were not man and woman.
I was a man.
You were a boy.
I had like 2 specks of hair.
You were a boy. I was a girl. We were still very young. I think we were like 22, 24. And that was our first Thanksgiving. And, you know, to make long story short, in in the beginning, both sides of the family were not, in harmony, but thanks be to God for reconciliation. Things have definitely changed now. But our first Thanksgiving together, I remember my husband wanting us to, or suggesting we go over to, his family's house for Thanksgiving. And so, he spoke to his dad, and his dad was like, well, he could come, but his so-called wife cannot come.
The disrespect.
So then he was like, oh, all right, bet. If my wife can't come, then I'm not coming. Because, what am I coming to do there for? Like, that's my family now. If she can't come, then I'm not coming. Bet, like, deuces. And that set such a huge precedent in our marriage. It's like, you can't, like, we come as one now. You can't just try to disrespect one person and think that you're going to kiki with the other person. Like, that doesn't work. So he had to put his foot down right from the beginning and create that boundary. And literally, even over time, over years, there's just that respect that you have garnered from just being a man.
Yeah, and just like from as a man to man, you know what I mean? Like, if somebody is trying to check something that's yours, right? You have to protect it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're mine, I'm yours. Like, this is my domain. Like, you can't just come and just, like, you know what I mean? I have to protect, like, what's mine, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that in that moment, it might cause, like, two to butt heads, but over time, like, you earn that respect. You know what I mean? Like, right now, my dad, he's like, bruh, like, salute. Like, like, salute, you know what I mean? And as a son, it's like, yo, my dad just said, you're doing a good job. It feels so good. Yeah. But it didn't come easy. It didn't come with me. It came
at a cost.
It came at a cost. It didn't come with me, like, saying, yes, dad, okay, dad. It's like, no, like, I'm my own man now, my own person now. I have family now. I have a family now. So I have to make decisions, make the decisions. And whether if it's good or bad, I have to live with that as a man. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I have a question for you, though. So I don't know if you remember this or not, but how did that make you feel as the wife, right? Like, because in that sense, when he said, I can come, but you can't come, me saying that, no, we're a package, we come together, and so, no, we're not going to go, that was me protecting you also, right? Yeah. So as a woman, as a wife, like, how did that make you feel? I'm curious.
That was honestly a great feeling, because it's like, wow, like, I just know that we had something special. Like, you've always been on my side since day one. And so and I don't want to say I wasn't even shocked, because I feel like we had already been through enough at that point where if you had been like, okay, yeah, deuces, I'm going to go, and you go to your mom's house, that would have been a shock to me, because I feel like you've always done a great job of choosing me. And so, yeah, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, you chose me. Like, it just solidified what I already knew. Yeah. And then even throughout the rest of our marriage, it's something that it has been consistent. And so, it's been him putting his foot down from the very beginning. And it's something that has carried through in the marriage. And so if it's not something that has been consistent, for you, whoever is watching, and if it's something that you feel like you both need to do better in, or if your husband needs to do better in, it warrants a conversation. It warrants that conversation, like, hey, you have your own family now. Like, you are the man in this family. You can't look to another man to make those decisions for you in your own home. Yep. And at some point too, those family members that are causing that toxicity in your relationship, I bet you they went through the same thing. And sometimes people want to have amnesia. It's like when you selective amnesia. When they did it to you, you definitely didn't like it. But then now that you're not in that position anymore, you want to kind of like do that to someone else. And sometimes they don't even realize it, So it really takes you speaking up. Like, you have to speak up. You don't have, don't worry about the consequences. Eventually people will come around. Trust me. We are living proof. Yeah. People will come around. When
we like the fight. We go with the fight.
When they see you doing well, when they see you putting your foot down, when they see that they can't, there's nothing bad they can say about you and how well you're growing in your family, in your marriage, they have no choice but to come around and to give you that respect and to respect that boundary that you're putting in place. But you have to put your foot down. It has to start with that.
And I think that, the parents, for the most part, most parents who have, who are thinking straight,
Level-headed.
most level-headed parents, they want your best interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes, the transition from, having kids in your house and then being an empty nester or whatnot, I feel like it's a hard transition. Like I'm not there yet, and I don't know how. No, I'm not there yet, but I feel like I'm gonna thrive in that season. I feel like it's no kids in the house, bet, let's get, we're good, right? But I don't know. But I see a repetition of empty nesters not know how to like let go, right? Of multiple things. You're used to taking care of your kid, right? I feel like that one's easy because I'm gonna take care of you no more, cool, right? But the idea or the power or whatever of like, I used to be able to tell you something, right? And you say, yes, dad, yes, mom, right? Now you're talking back, or like now you have your own opinion, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that as a kid is growing, the parent is kind of finding it, they're also adjusting too, you know what I mean?
True.
So I don't think that they're like, I want to make your life hell. No, I feel like they're the same way we're adjusting,
That's
right?
That's really good. That's a really good point.
Yeah, so I feel like
yeah.
If you are a couple, right, that let's just say I'm a guy, and growing up I was super close to my mom, like this, right? So let me use myself and my mom's I can't talk. Let me use myself and my mom as an example, right? So if you are somebody who, let's say you've been married for 5 years, it's just random number, right? And you have not set up that boundary yet. I want to kind of know your thoughts on this too, but I'll answer first. You have not set up that boundary yet, right? One, how do you like flip the script? How do you like set the boundary? Because you've already been like 5 years of marriage, right? And it's been you not defending your spouse or whatever, for lack of better words, right? Or setting a boundary, right? So I think that for me, I will look at it this way. Like, don't look at your mom or your parent as the enemy. You know what I mean? Like I said before, know that like they are also learning how to let go. So I think just having an honest, loving conversation with them. Like, hey, mom, I love you. I know you love me. And I know that like you still love me even when I'm married. I know you want the best for me, but X, Y, and Z. Me and my household, we need X, Y, and Z. And I need you to respect that, right? Mm-hmm. And also like empathize with them too, that, hey, they're also going through a transition. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I guess like that's how I would address a situation. So how would you advise a couple, right? They've been in a marriage for, let's say, 5 years, right? And they haven't been setting boundaries, but now they want to set boundaries. Like, how would you advise them?
Yeah, I think, pretty much everything that we've said. To one, they need to talk about it themselves to figure out what boundaries they want to set. Mm-hmm. And then, if that situation comes up where, the boundary is about to be crossed, whoever is crossing the boundaries, they have to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. Again, who is the person that's crossing the boundary? Is it a sibling? Is it a parent? You have to kind of figure out who it is, how to approach that. And like you said, if it's a parent, you kind of have to approach it from that standpoint. Like, okay, they also need to learn how to let go of control, and they're probably navigating that. Mm-hmm. And it also depends. Do you genuinely feel like this person is genuine and cares, but just don't know how to handle it? Or is it breeding from toxicity? Because there are people who just want to sow discord in the marriage, and that one, no, we're not playing games. That one, we're not playing. We're not having a sit down. We're rebuking you in the name of Jesus. Okay, we are rebuking you in the name of Jesus, because you are not about to come and sow discord in the marriage. Yeah. But I would say that's how they can go about it. Another area too that I feel like is hot that I want to touch on, that I definitely feel plays a role into setting boundaries, is when it comes to, especially those who are like the firstborn child of your family, and then now you're an adult, you probably have married, you have kids of your own, you have your job, you're doing well, and then now there's that like expectation of you to now be the one to take care of the rest of the family. And it's so burdensome, because it's like, man, like I just had my family. I'm responsible for my family. I'm barely making it taking care of my family. Now I have to take care of grown adults somewhere who have now made me their cash cow. And it's like that boundary needs to be set. Mm-hmm. Like I can't keep, especially if you have younger siblings who are now coming to you. You now have become their parent when your parents are there. And it's like, yo, that's not fair. Like, just because I'm grown, I have a good paying job, like, still, you don't even have any children to take care of. I have children to take care of, so like, I
so
now
nice.
shouldn't be expected to now come and take care of the entire family, because then what's going to be left for me to take care of my children with? What legacy am I going to leave for my children, if I'm using that to take care of an entire village that can work and are able to work, able-bodied,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's another boundary that needs to be set. It's like, where it's like, hey, I'm still trying to land on my feet, and so you can't expect me to be wobbling on my feet and then help someone else that's also like needs to be helping themselves,
I'm gonna let you guys know this now. And this is not a podcast. What is this?
Conversation.
It's a conversation. In this conversation, in these videos, guys, know that Jennifer is like the good one. We're all good, you know what I mean? But I'm trying to be funny here. But know that Jennifer's the good one. And
I try to be politically correct, which sometimes it can
Jennifer,
skew my the way I'm saying things, but I try my best.
But for me, we talking. Yeah. I feel like the idea of, hey, you and I, we've made it, right? So our parents, and I'm not saying that our parents are doing this, but I feel like someone's watching this and they're like, yo, I'm married and I'm barely making it, or I'm making it, whatever, right? But my parents are expecting money every single month, right? Let me set you free, yo. You don't have to send your parents anything. If you and your wife agree that, hey, we're not sending our parents a dime every month, that's between you and your wife. And you shouldn't feel anything about it. Now, I feel like there are morals around it. Now, if your parents are sick and you don't want to give your parents nothing, then you probably might be a bad person. You know what I mean? But in a normal circumstance where your parents are working, everybody's healthy, everybody's good, right? And your parents, like you said, like, you're married, you have a good job, and they see that you're thriving. Now it's like, oh, well, you're doing good now. That's tree in the English dialect is I'm the one who raised you. I, broke my back and I watched you. Now it's time for you to come and watch me now. Nah, we're not doing that. That's an error.
That was your responsibility as a parent.
So when parents do say that, right, I feel like it's very selfish on the parents, right? Let's take it biblical for a second, right? It is I'm going to paraphrase, right? It's like a man's job. Oh no, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, I believe, right? But if not for anything, you leave it for your children and then your grandkids, right? And so I will argue that if you are telling me that, hey, I have to pay your mortgage for you because you see that I've made it, whatever it may be. First of all, you never even know if I've made it or not.
You assume I've made it from what you see. Just because I don't look like what I'm going through.
Sometimes the glory of God will, you know what I mean? And then, you know what I mean? But, if you're the one that you're like, yo, I'm expecting you to do this. Oh, your family in Ghana. And usually these kind of things happen in the Ghanaian tradition. I'm Ghanaian, so I can only speak for that. I don't know if the African tradition, I don't know if, it happens in any other culture, but if it does, listen up, bro and sis. So if they are saying that, and if you're a Christian, I would be like, yo, you have failed. Because why is it that you haven't left an inheritance for me and for my kids, but you're turning around asking for me to take care of you? You know what I mean? Like, you do better. Like, plain, like, no disrespect, all love, do better. Like, you can't expect me to rob my future for back. Like, no. Like, you should have done a better job. And now I know that situations are different. Some people, didn't have, I get all that, right? But to the best of your ability, right? You should be able to pave a way forward. It shouldn't be backwards, right? Now, I can hear y'all saying that, so you just trying to be stingy, you made it. No, we're not saying that. If I have made it, right, and I'm a level-headed son, wisdom will tell me that, hey, go and give. Like, you're supposed to give, right? Wisdom will tell me, man, like, I'm grateful that my mom took care of me, my dad took care of me, my grandma. I'm giving something as appreciation, as a token of appreciation, right? Not because I'm not giving it to you because you
you earned it for taking care of me. Or for
Yeah,
doing your
like you
job
don't.
as a
Yeah,
parent.
you can't earn that. That's your responsibility. Like you don't
Yeah.
earn that, right? But I can say, hey, I love you and I appreciate you, right? And I'm grateful, right, for you doing your job. Like, because there are some parents who are just ishy parents. So I'm glad that you didn't abandon me. You didn't run away when it got hard. Thank you, Mom. I have overflow. Bam, right? And even that, right? If my wife says that, hey, I do not want us giving X amount or whatever the case may be, is you guys now, right? And so pray that your wife is level-headed and she's, in the, you know what I mean? But even if she's not level-headed, I would not suggest like going behind her back and just pray for her because that's a whole different ball game, right?
I feel like the issue at hand is just entitlement, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, again, nobody, like, you shouldn't have an issue with helping anybody that you want to help.
Yeah.
But when it turns around to like flip the script, it's like, no. Don't flip the script and make it a responsibility because it's not a responsibility.
Yeah.
It was your responsibility to take care of your children, just like it's mine to take care of my children. And thankfully, we want to put things in place where when we are older and grown, we will never burden our kids with like, oh, we want you to now come and take care of us or all that kind of stuff. Again, like so many is a play here. So I hope you really understand the sentiment behind what we're really saying. So
we're not just like cold-hearted.
Yeah, I think it's just that whole like entitlement and then like flipping the script of responsibility. And it's like, no, like that's a boundary that does not need to be crossed and it needs to be, set straight.
Yeah. If God has blessed you and has put you in a position where you can reach back and help your parents or grandma, whoever the case may be, like that's a great thing to do. Please do it, right? But do not rob from your household and your future self and your kids' right? To go back and help. Like when you're on the airplane, they said that when it's crashing, you put your mask on first before you help somebody else. Like I'm not helping my grandma before me because if I'm dead, who gonna help my grandma out? You know what I mean? And so these are all boundaries that you set for your family, and it just makes your life a lot easier, yo.
Yeah,
a lot easier. You save yourself a headache.
It's
honestly.
hard. It's painful. Like you will wrestle with it a lot. It's not easy. You're gonna cry. You're gonna feel like, oh my gosh, did I make a mistake? Like no, it's hard. It's difficult. But man, like in the long run, it will pay off. It will pay off. Like I said, they will come around. If they don't come around, it's okay. You will still be good. You will still make it.
I have just had a thought that what if, right? Let's say, what if like somebody's watching this right now, right? And this is a wife that has noticed that the husband is not setting boundaries. Because usually like the husband and the mom, they're like really close, right?
That's that in-law situation.
And is a good, they're good together, right? Good together. But for whatever reason, when the mom comes around or whoever comes around, dad comes around, they don't know how to set boundaries, they switch up, right? What would you say to that wife that is going through that? Like what advice would you give them?
Yeah. A lot of times I think that whole weird mother-son dynamic when it comes to, a married son is honestly, if your in-laws husband is not giving what they need to give, they're trying to seek that from their son, and that's terrible.
Hold up. I'm lost. I don't know if y'all lost. Say it again.
Oh, so like usually, okay, so that the son and mother relationship thing.
Okay.
Those moms that are like so clingy onto their son, or like my son, It's like you're trying to get from your son what you're probably not getting from your husband, and that's terrible. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about sexual. If it's sexual, then that's your problem. But like, a lot of times,
that's a word.
No,
not sexual.
If you're
but
getting that attention, if you're getting that love, like if you're getting that, like it's me, all about me thing from your husband,
that's
spouse,
crazy.
You're not gonna be seeking that from your son, who is now married to somebody else who needs to be doing that for them. So stop.
You better speak. Stop. That's a word.
So yeah, that's a very hard conversation that needs to be had. And as the wife, you need to either let the husband realize that, hey, that's not healthy, that's not okay. And sometimes, what if the mom is not married? A lot of times that's what it is. Like they just need a man. But I'll say that
Yeah.
that conversation needs to be
Oh, wow.
had. Like it has to be had, or else like it's gonna put you, the wife, in a uncomfortable situation because you enough is enough. At one point, you're gonna spaz, and then now you're
Yeah.
gonna look like the terrible person.
Yeah.
So if I don't know if you've
Wow.
had the conversation with your spouse and they're still not getting it, then hey, you need to get somebody involved that's gonna sit them down and like, yo,
Yeah.
you are tweaking right now.
And wife, if that's you, like, yo, hold your ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do not feel shy or sway away from the fact that, like, no, it should all be about you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Don't get it confused for, oh, okay, he's loving his mom. That's a healthy thing, right? But when it's too much, like,
It's a difference.
it's a difference. And so if I am the woman, I'm like, hey, husband, like whatever your name is, like, it's me. Like, I'm your queen, not your mom,
Yeah.
not your grandma, not your auntie, not your sister. Like, it's me. You see this ring? That's my middle finger. You see this ring? You know what I mean? Like, you married me. Like,
Yeah.
so I will, like, demand, like, your respect, demand your love, like, because you deserve that. That's you. You know what I mean? And also pair that with praying and wise counsel, all that
Yes.
stuff too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But, like, there's certain things you don't really pacify. You know what I mean? You can say it here and there, but if it's a pattern, and that was the example I gave, it's a pattern, yo,
Yeah.
sis, put your foot down.
And
Yeah.
it's, and especially if it's a man, is a good man and a man who's receptive, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe is struggling to practicalize it. Like they know that that's like a problem and they just need
Yeah.
to like put into practice.
Yeah.
It takes time, So like work through that with them. At least they
Yeah.
know that it's a problem. But if your spouse doesn't know, that one, dear, it takes
That one, dear.
fasting and
Yeah.
prayer.
But
so that the Lord will
I
turn
think
it
that like
around.
also just that, like you said, that communication, just have that conversation. You know what I mean? Like, okay, hey, like what happened in your childhood for you to be so close to your mom or X, Y, and Z, right? And I feel like
Yeah.
you would understand if you put yourself in his shoes, you could probably understand him, right? But now it's like, okay, how can we shift priorities to our current season now? You're a
Yeah.
grown ass man, like, like stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, what we're saying is that, especially if it's, boundaries that are pertaining to, parents, I would say that one, understand that there might be some friction or there might be, not a severance in the relationship, but like
We push back.
there will be pushback,
Yeah.
but you have to understand that you should be okay with it because eventually they will come around. Okay. Eventually people come around. They will respect your marriage. They will understand where you're coming from. And if they don't,
It's okay.
It is what it is. Cause now this
Yeah.
is your family. Like you're responsible for your family. You're responsible for raising your kids. You're responsible for what goes on in your
Yeah.
home. God is not going to ask your parents about your home. He's going to ask your parents about their home and going to ask you about your home. What did you do to protect your home? What did you,
Yeah.
what boundaries did you set in place to protect the peace and the sanctity of your marriage and your home? So yeah, just make sure that you remember this is you now and
Yeah.
they'll be fine. If they come around, wonderful. If they don't, it is what it is.
Yeah, she said it all. I agree. 1,000%.
All right, guys. If you have any more questions or any clarity, make sure you leave it in the comment section below, and we will catch you all in the next video. Peace.
Hey. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Oh my God.
Hey, we out.